Imagine you're an event planner for, well, a massive cultural moment.
Okay.
You have 80,000 fans arriving for the World Cup final in New Jersey.
Huge.
Right. It's Argentina versus Spain. The whole logistical machine is just fully in motion. But there's this massive problem.
The smoke.
Exactly. Invisible, toxic smoke from a wildfire burning, thousands of miles away in Canada is settling over the stadium. So what do? Do you cancel the biggest game of the year?
Yeah, or do you wait for the forecast rain to clear the air, even knowing it might cause massive lightning delays?
Right. It's an impossible choice.
Yeah.
Welcome to the deep dive.
It really is the ultimate modern dilemma, and honestly, it perfectly encapsulates what we are unpacking today.
Yeah, because today we are looking at the Daily Tech Reader's 4 p.m. news brief from Friday, July 17th, 2026.
And we're using it to look at the invisible threads connecting all these massive global events.
Right. Our mission today is to cut through the noise. We want to move past those chaotic, isolated headlines and show you the hidden narrative.
The narrative connecting, a shifting war in the Middle East, a massive reshuffling in the global AI market, and, like you mentioned, that exact Canadian wildfire threatening the World Cup.
It's all connected. And we really want to give you a shortcut to understanding the forces shaping the world right now. But before we get into the actual mechanics of all this, I want to establish a quick ground rule.
Very important, yeah.
The source material today contains some heavy politically charged content. We're talking about global conflicts, competing national strategies, things like that.
Right.
So we want to be crystal clear with you. We are simply reporting the facts from the briefing to explore these ideas. We are not taking any sides, left or right.
No.
Our only goal is to unpack the information so you can see the broader picture.
And I think that's an essential distinction to make, especially because the central theme emerging from today's briefing is that we have firmly entered an era of interconnected systems problems.
Systems problem.
Yeah, we can no longer analyze a single crisis, whether it's a war or a climate anomaly, in a vacuum. It just doesn't work anymore.
I really want to spend some time on that phrase, systems problems. Let's start in the physical world, looking at what I'm calling the infrastructure of everything.
Okay, I like that.
When you read through the briefing, you realize these modern crises aren't just, battlefield events or local weather anomalies. They are cascading disruptions to civilian infrastructure.
Right, they spread.
Yeah, I like to think of it like a global game of Jenga. You pull out one block, say, a vital shipping lane or a clean air current, and the entire tower of normal civilian life starts to wobble.
The Jenga analogy works, but I'd actually take it a step further.
Go.
It's a Jenga tower where the blocks are literally glued to each other.
Glued together, okay.
Yeah, so when one block gets pulled, it doesn't just make the tower wobble, it violently drags 3 other blocks out with it.
Right.
Take the escalating U.S.-Iran war that's detailed in the brief. This conflict has moved significantly beyond traditional military-on-military engagements. We are now seeing direct strikes on transportation networks, power grids, port infrastructure across several Gulf countries.
Which is a huge shift.
It is. For instance, the brief notes that U.S. Marines are now physically boarding a tanker near the Strait of Hormuz.
Wow.
Yeah, that is a massive escalation in how Washington is enforcing shipping access.
And on the flip side, Iran is countering by striking civilian targets in Gulf states, right?
Right, exactly.
Including this attack on power and desalination systems in Kuwait, which brings up a terrifying scenario to me.
The water issue.
Yes. If the war is targeting desalination facilities during the Middle East's extreme summer heat, doesn't that immediately turn a localized energy disruption into a devastating civilian water security crisis?
It absolutely does.
Because, you can't just tough out a lack of water in 120-degree heat.
No, you absolutely cannot. And that forces governments into a brutal corner. You can no longer manage energy security, public health, and national security as separate portfolios.
They're all the same thing now.
Exactly. When a desalination plant is hit in peak summer cooling demand, the immediate crisis isn't about military logistics.
Right.
It's about millions of civilians losing access to drinking water and the electricity required to keep hospitals running. The government suddenly has to balance its military alliances with the massive domestic risk of civilian suffering. It weaponizes basic survival.
It weaponizes basic survival. That is wild. And it also completely rewires how physical goods move around the planet, right?
Yes, it does.
The text mentions Saudi Arabia is redirecting more of its crude oil through its Red Sea infrastructure, specifically via the port of Yanbu, I think, just to bypass the Strait of Hormuz entirely.
Which is a logical pivot. but we have to look at the physical limitations of that strategy.
Okay, what are the limits?
Well, that east-west pipeline provides crucial flexibility, sure, but the briefing is very clear. It has a finite daily capacity. It simply cannot fully replace the sheer volume of the normal Persian Gulf shipping routes.
Right, it's just not big enough.
Exactly. Then add in the fact that Iran is reportedly encouraging Yemen's Houthis to prepare for action in the Red Sea.
Oh, man.
So now you have the prospect of kinetic pressure on two major global energy corridors at exactly the same time.
So they're squeezing both sides.
Yes. And the economic ripple effect is immediate and it's mathematical. Brent crude climbed toward $88 a barrel and West Texas Intermediate toward $83. That is a 16% weekly gain.
A 16% jump in 1 week. Look, if you're listening to this, that hits you right in the wallet.
Immediately.
Yeah, it threatens to raise costs for transportation, manufacturing, basic household energy.
Yeah.
But this infrastructure vulnerability isn't just happening overseas. The Jenga tower is wobbling in North America, too.
Right, the climate anomalies.
Yeah, we've got Canadian wildfire smoke pushing hazardous air deep into the Midwest, the Mid-Atlantic, the Northeast. Meanwhile, you have severe flooding in Texas and just out-of-control wildfires in the Pacific Northwest.
And just like the war in the Gulf is testing energy corridors, these climate anomalies are absolute infrastructure stress tests.
How so?
Well, Texas is struggling because its civil engineering, its drainage systems, its roadways, they were designed around 20th century historical rainfall patterns.
Right, the old normal.
Exactly. Those parameters simply do not apply to current 21st century atmospheric extremes. And the Canadian smoke demonstrates how atmospheric circulation turns distant fires into urban public health emergencies thousands of miles away.
It's not just a hazy sky anymore.
No, we aren't just talking about a hazy sky. We are talking about PM 2.5 fine particulate matter entering the bloodstreams of millions of people. It causes systemic health effects.
Which brings us right back to the World Cup scenario I mentioned at the top. This completely blew my mind.
The logistics of it are staggering.
Right. You have this massive cultural event at the Meadowlands, 80,000 fans showing up for a Sunday final, and organizers are just scrambling. They're trying to balance severe air quality concerns from the smoke with a forecast for rain that might actually clear the air.
But the rain brings lightning.
Right. It could cause lightning delays.
Sure.
It's a mess.
And the sheer scale of the planning dilemma here highlights a massive limitation in how we operate. Regional smoke movement changes faster than traditional operational timelines.
Yeah, you can't just pivot an 80,000-person event on 3 hours' notice.
You really can't. And the briefing makes a crucial point about the mechanism of public health here. The spectators face entirely different risks than the players.
Really? How so?
Well, a professional athlete is outside for maybe 2 to 3 hours, right?
Yeah.
And they're constantly monitored by medical staff.
Okay, sure.
But a crowd of 80,000 people, they spend hours tailgating outdoors, walking to the stadium, sitting through the match, and then waiting for transit afterward.
Oh, wow, yeah. That's a huge difference.
That crowd includes older adults, children, medically vulnerable individuals experiencing a 5 to 6 hour exposure window to that PM 2.5.
Right.
It forces event organizers to evaluate air quality over the full duration of a fan's experience, not just, whether the field is visible on television at kickoff.
Wow. So physical infrastructure, whether we are talking about desalination plants in Kuwait or stadiums in New Jersey, is hitting its absolute limits.
Yes.
And this limitation in physical infrastructure brings up a fascinating parallel in the digital world.
The AI market.
Exactly. Just as we are realizing we can't build our way out of extreme weather without better planning, Wall Street is realizing you can't just build infinite AI data centers without practical, measurable applications. We are seeing a massive reality check.
We are firmly in the great AI reality check.
The great AI reality check.
For the last few years, the market has been completely obsessed with the companies building the foundational infrastructure of artificial intelligence. But the July 17th briefing highlights a massive tangible shift.
Yeah.
Apple has actually overtaken NVIDIA as the world's most valuable publicly traded company.
Okay, let's stop there because I want to make sure we understand the mechanics of why that matters.
Yeah.
NVIDIA builds the chips, right? They are selling the picks and shovels for the AI gold rush. Apple is consumer product. So why is the market suddenly valuing the product over the infrastructure?
Because the market is rotating its attention toward distribution and monetization. NVIDIA provides the raw compute power, but companies are still struggling to figure out how to actually make money off that power.
Right, they have the power but no product.
Exactly. Apple, on the other hand, has over 1 billion iPhones in people's pockets. When they integrate AI into their operating system, they immediately distribute that technology to a captive consumer base.
Oh, that makes sense.
Investors are signaling that the infrastructure build-out phase is maturing. The prove you can make money off this phase has begun.
Okay, I'm going to push back on that market logic for a second because the numbers in the brief seem contradictory to me.
Okay, let's hear it.
TSMC, the massive semiconductor manufacturer, is posting record profits.
Yes, huge numbers.
And they just committed another $100 billion to their Arizona facilities, taking their total U.S. commitment to roughly $265 billion.
Right.
They are quite literally printing money and expanding. Yet the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index dropped 17% in July.
It did.
So if I'm an investor looking at historic capital expenditure, why is the market punishing these stocks with a 17% drop for doing exactly what we asked them to do, building physical infrastructure?
Are investors just getting impatient, or is this bubble actually popping?
Well, the bubble isn't popping,
Yeah.
but the math of capital expenditure, or CapEx, is catching up to the hype.
Okay.
The market is refusing to reward spending without visible near-term returns. Investors know that committing $100 billion to build massive semiconductor plants in the Arizona desert faces severe physical constraints.
Like the water stuff we were talking about.
Exactly. You have to find highly specialized skilled labor, you have to manage massive construction costs, you have to secure complex water rights for cooling these plants, and you have to localize an entire supply chain. That takes years.
Yeah, that doesn't happen overnight.
The market wants measurable software adoption data now, not just a forecast that a plant will be operational in 2029. They want to see the receipts. They are tired of the theoretical.
Precisely. And the tech giants are adapting their strategies because of this. Meta is a prime example in the briefing.
Right, the Meta deal.
They're considering a staggering $10 billion compute loss to Anthropic over 2 years, while simultaneously planning to produce their own in-house AI chip in September.
Wait. They are leasing out $10 billion in computing power to a competitor.
Yes.
Why would you arm your rival? That makes no sense.
Well, think of it like a power grid buying and selling excess capacity during a heat wave. Compute power is no longer just an internal IT expense. It has become a tradable strategic asset.
Oh, wow. A tradable asset.
Yeah. AI rivals can fiercely compete in creating consumer models while quietly cooperating on infrastructure. Meta has massive data centers. If they have excess compute capacity, they can earn a huge return by leasing it to Anthropic.
And Anthropic desperately needs that.
Exactly. They need faster access to scarce resources to train their models.
It's essentially dynamic digital utility trading.
Yeah, that's fascinating. But this isn't just a corporate battle, right? It's a massive geopolitical one, too.
Oh, absolutely.
The briefing highlights the Shanghai World AI Conference, where China formally pitched an open-source AI strategy to 29 participating countries. They unveiled a major open model from a company called Moonshot AI.
Right. And if we pull back and look at the global board impartially, you see two completely diverging national strategies. Washington is emphasizing what we call frontier innovation.
Let's define frontier innovation for a second. We hear that thrown around a lot. Does that just mean the most expensive models, or is there a specific technical definition?
Frontier models are the highly guarded, cutting-edge systems that push the absolute boundary of what is computationally possible.
Okay.
The U.S. strategy relies on private sector control of these massive proprietary models backed by export limits on the chips needed to train them.
So keeping it locked down? Yes. Beijing is taking the opposite approach. By emphasizing affordability and open source models, they are granting broad access, particularly to developing economies.
So by offering an open source model to 29 countries, China isn't just being, generous.
No.
They are building a vehicle to shape international technical standards. Like, if a developing nation builds its entire banking or educational system on a Chinese open-source AI architecture, they are locked into that technical ecosystem for the next decade.
That is the second-order effect, yes. The briefing noted that Friday's global picture connected two simultaneous competitions: control of the physical trade routes in the Middle East and control of the digital standards governing global AI.
Which is incredible to think about. But if you're sitting at your desk right now, listening to this on your commute or while you're tweaking a ChatGPT prompt, you really need to hear this next part.
Yeah, this hits close to home.
Because the definition of what makes a good employee just shifted right under your feet. The demand for results on Wall Street is trickling directly down to how everyday workers are evaluated.
The transition in the modern workplace is profound. The briefing identifies a new career microtrend. They call it implementation credibility.
Implementation credibility.
Yes. For the last 2 years, just knowing how to use AI, being the person who understood generic prompts, that was enough to stand out.
Right, the idea person.
That era is over. Employers want hard evidence that you can connect AI tools to specific industry processes to actually improve accuracy, speed, revenue, or customer outcomes.
So being the idea person isn't going to cut it anymore. If I'm listening to this, how do I actually prove this implementation credibility to my boss? What does that look like in practice?
Well, look at how Bank of America is restructuring. The briefing notes they just appointed senior executives specifically tasked with accelerating AI adoption across the entire bank.
So making it official.
Yes. They are moving away from scattered, fun pilot programs and towards centralized, hard-nosed implementation. They are demanding AI be used for core operations, coding, deep financial research, document processing, and fraud detection.
Okay, so it's getting serious.
Very. To prove your credibility, you have to show an evolved level of AI literacy. That means you don't just generate text. You recognize the statistical limitations of the models, you understand how to protect confidential client data from leaking into the training set, and most importantly, you verify the generated material.
Verification. That feels like the defensive mechanism we all have to learn now.
It really is.
Because the flip side of this workplace AI integration is the rise of incredible hazards. Like, the briefing specifically highlights a warning from India's securities regulator about fraudsters using deepfake-enabled executive impersonation.
Yeah, to trick employees into transferring millions of dollars.
Millions of dollars!
Consider the dark irony of our current technological moment. We have access to the most advanced digital intelligence in human history, yet the most vital workplace skill is becoming aggressively analog.
Right.
Because deepfakes are now visually and audibly indistinguishable from reality on a compressed video stream, businesses are being forced into out-of-band verification.
Meaning, if your CEO pops up on a Zoom call and asks you to wire funds to a new vendor, you have to literally hang up, pick up a traditional telephone, and call their personal cell number to confirm it's actually them.
Yes, we are using 1990s communication habits to defend against 2026 cyber threats.
That is just wild.
It is entirely reactionary because the technology outpaced our operational security. And while businesses are scrambling to defend themselves internally, governments are struggling to regulate it from the outside.
Right, the regulations are lagging.
We just saw the EU push key high-risk workplace provisions under their AI Act all the way into 2027. They realized employers needed significantly more time to prepare the required documentation and risk assessments.
But then, on the other side of the globe, you have Indonesia planning a major copyright overhaul that might actually grant legal protections to some human-directed AI-assisted creations.
Which fundamentally challenges the existing structure of global technology platforms and licensing practices. Governments worldwide are realizing that creating comprehensive AI regulation is moving much slower than the actual messy deployment happening inside companies right now.
And, we can't forget how the physical systems problem we talked about earlier is quite literally crashing through the office windows.
Ah, the smoke again.
Yes. The briefing notes that the Canadian wildfire smoke is forcing employers to radically rethink the physical workspace itself. Buildings without effective HEPA filtration are accumulating smoke over several days.
This is a crucial mechanical detail. Standard commercial HVAC systems are designed for temperature control and basic ventilation. They are not designed to filter out PM 2.5 particles.
They just push the bad air around.
Exactly. Without specific HEPA retrofits, the building just recirculates the toxic air. If employers don't have indoor air quality plans, they face massive productivity losses as their workforce experiences headaches, cognitive fatigue, and respiratory symptoms. The physical climate crisis and the digital productivity crisis are colliding right in the cubicle.
Which perfectly synthesizes everything we've uncovered today.
Yeah.
I mean, we are living in a moment where theoretical ideas are crashing into harsh, practical reality.
Everywhere you look.
Yeah. Whether it is climate anomalies dictating how we plan a World Cup and filter our office air, a localized war testing the absolute limits of global supply chains and water security, or the AI industry maturing from a speculative infrastructure frenzy into the hard, measurable work of corporate integration.
It's all connected. When you understand how a desalination plant in Kuwait affects global oil prices, or how a semiconductor plant's water needs in Arizona change the required skill set at your desk, you stop simply reacting to the news.
You begin anticipating it.
Exactly. You see the hidden architecture of the global system.
And that gives you a massive advantage in how you navigate your career, how you invest your money, and really how you understand the world. Now, before we go, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Something built on what we just discussed, but that pushes it one step further.
Okay.
It goes back to Indonesia's planned copyright overhaul regarding AI-assisted creations. Think about this. If implementation credibility truly becomes the most valuable career skill in the world, and we rapidly transition into mere directors and verifiers of AI output, how will the future economy define authorship?
That's a great question.
Right. Ultimately, will the future value the person who comes up with the original creative idea or the person who can successfully verify, legally protect, and execute it? Who is the real author in an automated world?
It's going to be fascinating to see how that plays out.
It really is. It's something to really think about the next time you sit down at your desk.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.